Good morning, everyone. This is Corey Hinkle with your Ankerstar Wealth Daily Update. Today, I'm going to hit on what if the market does start to go lower. I'm going to look at some big tech buyback information, and we're going to look at year-to-date sector performance, so you can kind of see what's been, hot this year, what hasn't been, and kind of what's holding the market up as we currently sit. Before I begin, I must remind everyone this is a financial education presentation. You must do your own due diligence before acting on anything you hear in this presentation. More disclaimer information can be found on ankerstarwealth.com, and the opinions expressed are mine and mine alone. All right, jumping over to a market update. It looks like we are, oh no, hold on, my share button moved. Okay. Looks like markets are just really flat this morning. The S&P 500 is about 1% away from all-time highs, though, so we're kind of right there. But it seems like we've been saying that for months at this point. I do want to hit on what if the S&P 500 doesn't get there? What if the market does turn lower? Here's a 6-month view. You can see we've really been flat for most of that time. Going back, we were at 6,900 in October. We're at 694 right now. So a stone's throw, from that October peak. Tech is actually worse than this. The NASDAQ, the Qs are down, last time I looked, about 6% from an all-time high, which is a bit of a headwind for the market. Now you might be thinking, well, if tech is down 6%, how is the market not down 6% from the October high? We have seen some real strength in other parts of the market, and I'll show you that now. And here, let's zoom out though. Before I show you that, I do want you to focus on this blue line, the 200-day moving average. So the first question I asked was, what if the market is turning lower? Well, in the past, the 200-day moving average for the S&P 500 is a really nice signal for the market environment we're in. So obviously we're comfortably in a bull market here, but the good thing about flat is when we peaked in October, the S&P 500 was at 690, or the SPY was at 690, but the 200-day moving average was down at 608. So you were something like 13% above that 200-day moving average. Now, the SPY is still about 690, but that 200-day moving average has climbed from 610 or 609 all the way up to 647. We round up to 647. So that 200-day moving average is kind of a bit of a floor. If you're somebody who wants to try to get out of the market, that's that time to do it. And because the market environment's been so strong and it's kind of held flat up here, it's given the 200-day moving average a lot of time to catch up. You can see if we zoom out further, that is your opportunity if you so choose to take it, to try to exit the market. And of course, we're comfortably above that now. But yeah, you can see how that's played out in the past. Some of the best examples is 2008 through 2010. You got out pretty early. So if you're trying to get out, look, you've got false alarm, false alarm, false alarm, false alarm, a bunch of false alarms. But if you're really trying to do it every time, and you really catch a big drop, you can benefit from it. And then of course the tech bubble worked comfortably there as well. So yeah, what environment are we in right now? Things are very strong and we have a nice floor. The floor is catching up to us quickly here, which is great. Now, again, tech is down. So what's moving this year? So check this out. We've got energy up 20% on the year, materials 14%, and staples up 13%. These are things no one has wanted to own. Has anybody been talking to you about Exxon? Probably not. Has anybody been talking to you about APD or some of these things? Probably not. Has anyone been talking to you about Hershey's? Probably not, So, and then the industrials have been really strong. We'll see that as well. Now, I wanted to show you this. This can show you kind of what part of the cycle you're in. When consumer staples and energy are working, and real estate is beating the market this year too. Real estate is working a bit. that says we're in later cycle. That it doesn't necessarily mean that 2026 is late cycle, late in this bull market. Of course, we are in a nice mature bull market, and it could wind down sometime soon. You don't know. You can't call it until it happens, right? But the evidence is starting to build a little bit that we're pretty late cycle. Now, sometimes these can be mean reverting. So maybe energy, materials, consumer staples were so neglected that they kind of are getting some love this year, and things will flow back to financials, discretionary, and tech. And if we see that, then that's totally fine. It is just something to be aware of here as we weigh the evidence. All right, and I did want to show you that on the chart. Industrials, I mean, just some brilliant moves here. This is year-to-date performance around the S&P 500. Brilliant moves around the industrial space. Who is this? Come on, Verisk. You cannot. Okay, I think Verisk has actually real AI problems. So that's one not to touch. But you can see the staples. Costco, Pepsi up 14% this year. Say what? So staples have been playing their role, and then energy. It does not get better than this for 2026. Exxon, Chevron, just really, really brilliant moves there. Healthcare, mixed bag. Here's one thing I wanted to hit. If you're still with me, put a like on this video, but so that way I know if someone has heard this. Here's what I wanted to hit on big tech. We're in a little bit of a seesaw. So Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft, they're spending like crazy to build out their AI capabilities, right? Now, every time they increase their CapEx, or the amount that they're planning to spend, their stocks go down because investors are starting to get sick of it. Like, okay, you've spent enough. We want to see the return on capital. We want to know that this investment isn't for nothing. We're starting to become concerned. But when they raise their CapEx, you see things like NVIDIA pop up. Micron, Intel, all the semiconductor equipment and materials, the computer hardware stocks. So it's like when CapEx gets raised, those stocks react positively. But then, so that's kind of how you push NVIDIA up, is by pushing the others down in a way. That's where the pressure points have been this year. The reverse is also true. When they lower their CapEx guidance, or when they back off, investors feel a little bit relieved. Okay, they're not spending too much, or maybe they're not going to spend too much. We feel comfortable. We like the businesses. We're going to go back in. But what does that do to NVIDIA, Micron, Broadcom, and those? It pushes them down. So it's almost like we're at a point where in big tech, you're having to rob market cap from one company to push it into the other, and vice versa. You're having to rob market cap from NVIDIA to push it back into the others. So you can see that's where we are in big tech. Now, what could change that? If you started seeing some real breakthroughs in AI, that could change that. Now, what's also funny is, without the AI breakthroughs, which obviously AI itself is a breakthrough, but we're not seeing new innovation in the sense that we are seeing new businesses being targeted, like legal was targeted last week by Anthropic. So you are seeing new things targeted. We just don't have hard data that there's like an AI that's stepped into a role with some 99.999% success rate. The nature of what AI doesn't lend it to being accurate enough of the time as it currently sits. So if we saw a breakthrough where those accuracy rates went up close to 100%, and that was, those agents were assuming responsibilities in different jobs without any failure rate, then maybe you could see everyone start to win again, and that's probably their goal, right? At the same time, you are seeing people are not waiting on software; they're just throwing it out and assuming that these businesses will be under threat. The general narrative around something like a Salesforce isn't that Salesforce will be totally obsolete. the narrative is that there will be enough newer competitors that Salesforce margins will go down, or they won't have as much leverage at the negotiating table. All right, so let's look a little more at that spend. Tech AI spending may approach 700 billion this year. Here's one issue that comes with that. So they do have the money. In some cases, some of their balance sheets are becoming a little sketchy, we'll say. Not bad, but a little bit less fortressy than it used to be. And then at the same time, when they're spending so much on these other things, they don't have as much money to buy back their own stock. So share buybacks for quarterly share buybacks for Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Oracle have dropped to their lowest level since 2017, as of the middle of 2025, and this is potentially going to approach zero. These companies are spending every dime they have on the development of AI, and they need that to pay off. Now, like we looked here, right? I mean, you tell me what you think. Tech AI spending may approach 700 billion this year. What kind of, if you were running a business and you were going to spend 700 billion, what kind of revenue would you need to drive from that to make the investment worth it? I mean, it depends on who you ask, but it's not going to be a small amount of revenue, right? So they're going to need to prove that this investment is a driver of fundamental, improvements in their business, and investors are a little bit concerned about that. Here's a new chart just showing kind of relative at the different companies. So the cash flow from operations relative to the capital expenditures, and you could see that in most of these cases, these hyperscalers are pretty much, if it was like a car analogy, they're like pedal to the metal right now. They couldn't possibly go any faster. So they're maxing that out. Now, again, if the investment pays off, they're good. It's important to note these companies will be fine no matter what. It's more just what kind of return are they going to get? What does that look like? What's the timeline? And is it a good deal right now? Will these companies be able to reward shareholders in the short term? All right, that's what I have for you today. Hey, while we're talking, maybe we should keep talking because the S&P 500 is now up 0.25% today. Check that out. We'll take that. When did I start talking? I think we timed that pretty good. All right, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Look forward to seeing you soon.